Welcome to the return of the Lichemaster, created by Cataph and Vandy, a mod that unlocks a new campaign for you to play through using the legendary Lord Heinrich Kemwer. Kemwer has been in Warhammer lore since the earliest days, introduced in 1986 in a campaign called Terror of the Lichemaster. He was in fact the Warhammer Fantasy's first special character, so Cataph and Vandy decided to create a unique campaign based around this iconic character. This mod brings a completely unique campaign for you to play through and a whole new roster of units, unique to Kemwer and the Bow Legion. 3 extra legendary lords and 8 regiments of renown, with a whole list of new mechanics. First though, let us go for the roster that Cataph and Vandy have created. There'll be a separate video looking into the campaign. We have newly created legendary lords, heroes, regiments of renown and new units. All the following stats and abilities are based on vanilla settings. The mod is completely compatible with Boys Will Be Boys mod, and if you enjoy this video, like and share it so more people can find out about this mod. Not much point giving you the unit costs of the lords and heroes, because you can remove abilities to fit how you want to play. Okay, let's get onto this roster, and there's only one obvious place to start. Heinrich Kemwer, the man himself. As mentioned, the first special character and the first really big bad evil guy in Warhammer. Kemwer needed power above all else, and knowing that at some point he would die, driven by this, he made it his life's work to escape his own mortality and start learning all the dark arts of necromancy. After decades of practicing the art, he was quite capable of raising dead and being under complete control. With this mastery, Kemwer started to persuade across the old world, plundering any mage towers, ancient temples, anything to gain more power. So Kemwer, of course, brings the dark arts of vampire magic to the battlefield. Being nothing special in combat, but not as bad as you think, with a bit of melee defense, but the low armor makes him vulnerable even with that magnificent hat. As with all undead factions, be careful with your lords. If they die, you are pretty much out of this game, as the entire faction will start to crumble, unless you have a spare magic user. Kemwer can be put on a mount to make him more of a mobile target, but always keep an eye on him. He also brings some special abilities we can look at, starting with the invocation of the Lichemaster. This spell means keeping him with your troops is a good idea. With a 50 meter radius, this gives you a frontline constant heal, as well as boosting their melee attack by a huge plus 16, making your basic zombies might be able to actually hit something, a great ability. Next, we have the Chaos Toom blade. If you fancy risking Heinrich in melee, take this blade and give him a good reason to be there. Adding some more healing and some more melee attack to your allies close to you is never a bad thing. A huge risk though, and I'd recommend only doing this against weak front lines. Putting Kemwer in a front line against chaos units, and well, that's not going to end well. Saying this though, you can also add the Cloak of Mists and Shadow, which gives you a huge 75% physical resistance for 30 seconds, giving you a get out of jail free card. Just be careful of magic attacks. Great start to the roster, making Kemwer the ideal buffing and healing lord of the 4 possible possibilities. Priestess of Nadai. Kemwer created this ethereal lord from a mix of powerful priestesses from the Bow people. Another caster, but much weaker in combat than Kemwer, still has a natural physical resistance of 75% like all ethereal characters. She can bring a number of spells from different disciplines, 2 from the Law of Heavens, Harmonic Convergence and Comet of Cassandra, from the Law of Metal, Final Transmutation, from the Law of Shadows, Amphibian Foe, and 2 from the Law of Beasts, the Amber Spear and Pan's Impenetrable Belt, giving a priestess a real nice spellbook to bring to the fight. No healing for your undead horde, but some powerful offensive weapons and a couple of buffs as well, and allow you to really pick how this lord can be an offensive casting monster, or a small buffing and debuffing unit. Both completely viable, but getting this unit called by any magical melee unit or character and the priestesses are just going to disappear before you can blink. She does bring this ability as well, and just look at this tooltip. So I'll show you on the screen and I'll take you through what it does. So as soon as the battle starts, you get a series of buffs. So for the first 30 seconds, you get minus 50% miscast chance and extra physical resistance of plus 15%. Making a 100% resistance for physical attacks. After 30 seconds up, then that buff comes off and you get the next buff, which is plus 24% and to melee attack and defense, making the character pretty effective in combat, and then it comes off, and etc. You can go down the list. Getting the correct timing for getting the best out of this ability will take a lot of practice, but it's a particularly interesting order to play as. Next are some optional items. These are designed to annoy any casters on the opposition team. Firstly, we have Charms of Defiance. This constant debuff really frustrates any opposition magic user, and I suggest it is a must-have if you're using this Yord, because it's so damn good at controlling the opposition's magic output. If that's not enough, you can add the Crown of Tricksters. Not as good as the previous item, but still, if you're into screwing over casters, this is another good item to take with your army. Seeing that as most armies bring at least one caster, and if you're going to bring the Priestess of Nadai, I was just bringing these charms, at least the Charms of Defiance as a minimum, and be a bit more choosy on your spells. Constant spells are so handy because you don't have to even have to activate them. Drayskin High King. When a new king was crowned, he was bestowed this cursed helm, giving him more power and combat effectiveness. He died, and Kemmer found him and brought him back as a White King to do his evil bidding. A more combat-oriented Yord, and the cheapest of the four are the base price. An offensive Yord with good stats across the board, and if you want him to be more effective, put him on a Sky Chariot, which just looks awesome as you can see. Gives him more armour, and anti-infantry, and a massive charge bonus. A viable tactic for a more mobile combat option, something which the Undead factions do suffer with. Just make sure he doesn't get too far away from his troops. On foot though, you can bring some buffs to help bolster the front line. Vigor Mortis, which is a nice small buff for defense and attack. If taking him on the foot this cheap, abilities is a must-have, just to make sure he's always close to your troops. For an extra buff, you can bring the Undeath Resurgent, which makes the front line a bit more tanky. If you're building a more draining tanking build, maybe on a Mortisan, this is the Yord for you. If you're going into tanking, take the Helm of Scar, giving you a constant heal, which you won't normally have because there are no Necromancer heals. Kemmer hates the competition. So this smaller heal and a Mortis engine build is a nice combined choice. Build your army around this and it can last a bit longer even without a Necromancer's help. A solid choice, but the other three Edrian Yords bring a bit more to the table, but it's certainly the cheapest option, and the High King on a chariot is quite a potent force. The Nameless, the last Yord we look at. This is the curious little character, a wizard of pure evil. According to Cataph, he merged some old Drakenfell's lore, which is going back to the very beginning of Warhammer Fantasy. Then with the end times your character called the Nameless, and boom, this is what you get. Another ethereal hybrid caster, so let's deal with its spellbook first. 3 spells from the Lore of Death, namely Spirit Leech, Doom and Darkness, and Cellbright. So some of the debuff spells, and some damage there as well. Add on Raise the Dead from the Lore of the Vampires, the powerful Pit of Shade from the Lore of Shadow, and finally Soul Eater from the Lore of Dark Magic. A bunch of spells clearly showing more like the Priestess. Nameless is an aggressive magic focus. Stats wise, your typical ethereal unit, even weaker than the Priestess, so clearly a wizard you need to keep safe. Abilities wise, Nameless can bring the Master of Dead for some healing to the front line and some abilities to increase the magic, namely Life Leeching and Arcane Construct. Some abilities which come as part of his character. Firstly, there's Warped Mind, another constant debuff which causes weakened melee defense and also causes them to rampage. A very interesting ability, allowing you to bring enemies close, get them rampaging, and then move in some hard hitting units to take advantage of the lack of control your enemy has. All the while, Nameless is strolling away from danger cackling. While he is cackling, he can unleash mind control on a huge area, causing enemy units to freeze and rampage and take damage over 5 seconds. An excellent spell just to buy you some more time, and because it's a huge area, it makes it very disruptive. Along with Raise Dead in your spellbook, this makes Nameless a very curious shield to get used to, but as potent as hell. Have 2 power units guarding him at all times and unleash them on the enemy when they rampage. I can use some Hex to debuff them as well. With your micro on point, you can keep Nameless safe and use the other abilities to take down high value units. Heroes. For the Bow Legion, you can bring a White King and a Banshee, which are identical to the Vampire counts, so I won't cover them here, but we can go into more details with the others. Shadow Druids. First up are the casters, the Shadow Druids, all ethereal and bring either Shadow, Death or Heavens. Not much to see here. Your standard caster will reprise, useful if you bring in a more melee horde and just want some more different spells. Barrow King. Coming in slightly more expensive than a White King, this unit is more offensive than the tougher and more durable White King. Coming in with anti-infantry bonus of 16 and nice armor piercing of 275, making a much more effective unit in combat. They're along with magical attacks, make them a nice offensive presence next to your horde and can protect your caster. If you prefer a more offensive build, you can bring this chap into your army for extra killing potential. To increase his combat potential even more, he can also come on a Sky Chariot, making a more mobile force. Michael Jackson. No, not that one. But then again, he did appear in Warhammer in the 80s, and Games Workshop are not always the most creative bunch of people. Britonia. In any case, Michael Jackson is one of Kenwa's under minions and is now a hero for you to put in your army. As you can see, he's a really tough unit with high melee defense and can dish out damage as well. A really good choice for those tougher grinder armies. Heavily armoured with a silver shield, an entry infantry bonus of 14, but yakking on AP, a really grindy character with some optional buffs as well. Chira Knight? Through a Knight? Okay, let's keep going. To bring that home, that more tanky aspect. Constant buff to the front line, keeping them in the fight longer. I like this hero, and he can link up with pretty much any horde to help defend him, and also he can give out some much needed damage as well, and will definitely not be easy to take down for your opposition. Krell. Yep, you know who's coming. You mentioned Kemba, and you have to mention this axe-wielding Chaos Menace. A legendary Chaos champion who's been brought back to life by the Great Nagash, and then years later by Kemba. The most expensive hero and a combat monster, a huge AP of 260 and a bonus to charge at 20. Magical damage as well, and a tough unit with good armour and good defence. If you're facing a large unit, take well and watch the opposition avoid him like the plague. Has your standard combat bonus abilities as well. You point Crow at what you want to kill, and that's it. Don't waste his abilities on chaff and low tier units. Just look for that chance to pounce on the large monsters or cavalry, and you win those big high value kills. First up, Grooms. The cheapest unit at 150 points. Same as zombies and pretty much the same stat line, but they bring a bit more to the table. 8 about melee leadership, and then being ethereal, they have about 75% physical resistance, and a magical attack on the swim chance they actually hit anything. Also, they bring the Tormented ability, which is just the same as Crumbling as an undead unit, and also the Spirit Yevi give them more leadership on melee defense, but makes them even slower. I prefer these to zombies, as they are tougher to get rid of due to their physical resistance, and their Spirit Yevi increases their Moot Sheet status even more. Of course, if they get hit, this unit is going to die, and any magic attack is making them disappear. But if they're using those magic attacks on these Grooms instead of your strong units, then that's a bonus for you. The Bow Legion also have Skeleton Warriors and Spears available to them. Both are 20 points cheaper at 280 and 330 than your standard skeletons the Undead bring. They have weaker armour, but other than that, they are identical. So, we can move on. A more expensive meat shield than the skeletons or grooms, coming in at 525. This unit is more offensive and can put out some damage, and can easily go through other meat shield units like Skavens and Bretonia's Peasants. They will chew these units up, but will melt to anything mid-tier, so either keep them buffed, or mix this unit with some of your cheap chaff. Just a note of caution, they have a 25% increase of damage from fire, so if you think that's coming from the opposition, avoid this unit. Skeleton Shield Breakers. Need some extra AP on the cheap? At 550. They may not have the greatest stats across the board, but they have some nice AP at 23. A useful unit if you needed a bit more of bite to the front line and are against heavy armoured foes. These units can easily make a dent at a reasonable cost, and you can buff them quite high to create even more damage. Barrel Guardians. At 850 points, these are more a mid-tier unit with a good armour and silver shield. Got an anti-infantry buff and can put some DPS down in opposition. The nice armour and reasonable stats makes them a stalwart in the front line if you feel that opposition will not bring weak chaff. These will hold the front line much better and can put out some damage as well. Pretty much the same as Graveguard for the Undead. Barrel Guardians with pole arms. This unit brings the tanking side of the roster home with a good melee defense and a bonus against the charge of 20, and also some AP at 22. Coming in at the same cost as your standard Guardians, making these a judgment call. If you're worried about Yard units, take this unit. If not, and you're facing Dwarf army with hardly any Yard units, take the other Barrel Guardians. With their anti-infantry bonus, they can bring a bit more to the field. Also available to the Barrel Legion are the classic Cane Waves, which are identical to the Undead ones. So for your fan, they come at a cost of 850, excellent AP, and obviously being ethereal, they have their uses. Especially due to their speed, they can get around the flanks much easier. This Undead faction actually brings some missile units. Well, pretty much only one. The Skeleton Spear Throwers give you some close range bonus versus Yarge, damage at 8. Not great in a fight, but they're not terrible, i.e. they're not zombies. They do provide some support, and anti-Yarge is quite handy. If you're facing monsters, or alternatively cavalry, consider a unit or two of these coming in at 400. They're not much more than your standard skeletons. They're not hugely accurate, but putting them on Yarge targets at least gives them a chance at doing some damage. But the all 4 AP makes them a niche point pick against low armour units, or maybe a debuff to help them pick at the enemy. Not a must-have, but they have their uses in certain battles. Unquiet Horsemen. Some cavalry for this faction, not the greatest cavalry, and they're poor necromancers Black Knights. Weaker in all respects, but cheap at 550. Only useful against skirmishes or some charges into the rear. This unit has more armour and some melee defence, compared to the Answer version, which has a good charge bonus, but quite a large drop off in armour, again for 550. If your micro is on point, you can get quite a bit of value out of these units. Only useful if they can catch some skirmishers flat-footed or some light cavalry, and they can put a bit of damage on the charge. Additionally, you can bring a unit of Hex Waves, which, as said before, are the same as the Vampire counts. Fast and hard hitting, just need a bit more micro because magic destroys them, but they can put some decent damage down, but 1400 points, they're very expensive. Maybe best saving it for more of the units to come up. Barrel Ghost. This cheap unit is 600 points and is a single energy unit. It is interesting because it has terrible stats and very low health pool, but it's 100% immune to physical attacks. So unless you bring magical damage against this, you're not killing them very quick. They do a leadership debuff of -16 and has a constant chewing effect around them, slowing them down. If you want to kill enemies' morale, this unit at such a cheap price can actually be a bit of trouble. Skaven, Greenskins and some Betonia units can easily break very quickly to this unit, and at 600, maybe a worthy investment for those niche matchups, and a prey to Krell, though you don't bring anything to who's magical. Simulacra. This amazing model represents the ancient statues of the barrels, the first of the constructs that Ken has dabbled with. This 1100 unit brings a monster force to the front line to cause good solid damage. Got some speed over a normal unit, they can attack the flanks and get in or just charge them straight down the middle and mix them up with your own chaff so they don't get overwhelmed. Not the greatest defense and not amazing attack values, making this a good unit to buff to get some solid damage out of them. Pretty much any anti-yard will give them a very, very hard time, and Slayers will make mincemeat out of them. Toom Stalker. The Shard Snake is the army's version of the Toom Scorpion. A bit better in melee and some more armour. This unit does not go underground however, so it's a bit easy to get damage on. Saying this though, it's got that anti-infantry bonus of 15 and good AP at 270. This unit is great against high armoured units and can be really a thorn on the opposition's side. It will need a couple of good anti-yard units to take this down, even though it is easier than a Scorpion to take down as it stays on the surface, so take care with it. As being another construct, be aware that hearing it is a problem. Other than that, this 1000 point you get a large battering ram to charge into the front line, and while the opposition worries about this large snake, you can get into a better position with your other units. A great distraction unit. Zombie Dragon. You can't beat a Zombie Dragon, and this adds some more weight to your front line, but at 2100 points. You can also have a Terrorgeist, which is exactly the same as the Undead faction. With a limited air force taken to the skies, it might be a bold move to sink some money into this viable unit, but against Skaven, Empire and Dwarves who don't have a huge air force, it's quite a viable tactic to take this beastie with you. With a Swarm of Flies debuff, gives a nice negative on melee attack around it, flying over the battlefield looking for targets. You can only use that Pestilent Breath to pick on single your targets. Skulls of Gestamund. The first regiment of Renown, and the cheapest at 820. A good combat unit with high damage output and a better unit all round than the embalmed ones, but with the same weakness to fire at 25%. They do bring a magical missile called Scream of Vengeance, making this unit a great pick to help take out a heavy armoured unit or giving them a severe debuff, lasting 300 seconds. This makes that unit easy to pick off, and of course it will take damage from the spell as well. And at 150 meter range, you can giving you the ability to focus the unit down with more elite units. This spell makes the Skulls of Gestamund a nearly a must-have in most unit rosters, as that ability is so powerful, lasting over 300 seconds. And it's a perfect way to get rid of a high tier unit. Doomed Legion. The next unit of Regiment of Renown. This unit is your elite of elite ground force, coming in at 1150 points. Good stats and bringing frenzy to the battle against the opposition that specialises in elite units such as High Elves or Dark Elves. This unit can go to toe with these units and do reasonably well. Add a few buffs and they can possibly take on Chaos, but be warned, the AP of this unit is so low, so manage your targets wisely. But this unit, flanked by 2 Spell Guardians in the front line, and then a couple of units of Guardians with pole arms, makes this a tough front line and can really play well with Kemmer's buffs and healing. The Caged. The next Regiment of Renown. A very interesting unit to bring to the field, coming in at 700 points. This unit brings some range damage and a bonus to charge of 5. Can cause some damage, but they also debuff whoever they hit with a magical mayhem debuff, making them quite useful at taking out opposition archers or debuffing melee infantry. I would say there's a home for this unit in any army. If that's not enough, they have a constant effect from magic mayhem, making them a perfect unit to be next to your heroes and lords. 5 seconds off your ability recharges is not to be taken lightly, and bonus of vigor as well. If any mages went into this unit 45 meters, then they get a plus 25 miscast. So this unit brings so much to the table for 700, and I put this unit in most armies, expensive as it is. The Beast of Caridare. I wish these people would call these units Dave or something I can actually say. Anyway, one of my favourite units on the roster, with amazing stats across the board, frenzy and a bonus to infantry of a big 30. It does have rampage though, so taking it can be a bit of a liberty because you can use control of it quite easily. Also, this beast has Frenzied Hunt, a constant ability which around 100 meters around him removes all stalk and unspottable units. So send this around, scout it out for those sneaky devils, and he can destroy them within moments. Hardly any downside, except for the hideous expense of 1350, and if it gets surrounded by an anti-large group, it can get bogged down, so keep a watchful eye, and then let it hunt. Guardians of Madi. This Regiment of Renown brings the stone statues again to life, and brings a Storm of Madi with them. Monstrous cav of 16 models, this unit at 1500 is a wrecking crew with huge AP at 77. No buffs for anti-arch or anti-infantry. Use them as a mobile botting ram and help rush the front line. Can stay in fights against most enemies, but be careful around the elite and anti-arch units. These can easily help grind out a victory due to them being tough to kill. Just remember they are constructs, so the vampire healing will not work. Buffs will though. With a bound special ability which recharges in combat, which is obviously where they should be the most of the time. This gives them some nice max damage and also makes the allies around them immune. The White Knights, another regiment of renown. Ancient Bretonnian warriors brought back to life by Kenra. This hard-hitting but fragile 1650 point unit is a high-impact flying death squad, bringing great mobility to the battlefield. With the high speed they can bounce around the battlefield, spreading terror, and with that good charge bonus, and remembering they have 60 models, this is a very effective unit. However, they will be target number 1 for magical attacks, and if they get hit by anything magical, they are just going to melt due to any defense, so pick your matchups well. A great unit for picking off the more vulnerable ones on the opposition, and they can quickly tear apart any artillery, even more than one. Something not to be overlooked is they do provide a guardian aura, so you can use this to guard heroes and lords, making them a bit tougher in combat, and keeping your lord alive in an undead faction is always good. Terror of the Lichemaster, the most expensive unit and badass unit on this roster. Yep, Kenra wanted a huge spider and then got this undead monstrosity. Huge armour and a bronze shield, great combat stats with fire, poison and magical, and a stupid amount of AP at 280. And that's not enough, it buffs all nearby units using its Vigor Mortis ability. And also screws up any casters nearby, a horrible thing to deal with. But at 2400 points, that is a lot of spider eggs to put in one basket. But hey, it's undead, so you can't heal it. Take this with Kenra and just heal and buff it, and it should be a nightmare for anything to take it down. Expensive as all hell, but a good solid unit to build around. Add some melee infantry and some flanking units, and this prized asset will soak up your energy's attention while you murder everything else that it doesn't hit. And that's the art of the units. An interesting roster, I'm sure you agree, with different types all over the shop. With some nice regiments of renown and some really interesting Euro types. The campaign video will come next, and we'll show you the different mechanics that has been created. This is a horde faction, so it gives you some interesting challenges throughout. So thanks for watching, please make sure you like and share, and also subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next video.